Hi everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a video where I discuss all of the series that I have started, DNF'd, continued or completed this year. I always really struggle with how to format these videos and which order to do things in, so this might seem a little bit messy, but this is the best way I could think of to talk about these books in some sort of order. Otherwise it was going to be too chaotic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by showing you all of the series that I started this year. Future me has hopefully made a cute little graphic here. We have Spice Road, Giant Days, Sheets, Rat Queens, Sad Ghost Club, Fence, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, Lore Olympus, Earth Divers, Guild and Firelight. As you can probably tell, most of these are graphic novel series because I started a lot of graphic novel series in February. Out of all of these, there are 3 series that I have DNF'd. There is 1 series that I have entirely completed. There are no books coming out ever, probably. There are 5 series that I am completely up to date with and waiting for the next book to come out. And there are 2 series that I will continue at some point, but I'm not really in a rush. Like, I'm not anticipating the next release or the next book in the series. So not too bad. 11 series started is fine by me, especially because I am up to date, completed or DNFing most of those. There are obviously only 2 that are kind of hanging over me. So what I'm going to do is quickly talk about the DNFs first and my reason for DNFing. So the first series that I started and DNF'd is actually a debut series, and that is Spice Road. The first book came out in, I think, January, and I was part of the blog tour. And I didn't hate this book by any means. It's a YA fantasy series that follows a main character whose brother has gone missing, and the main character has to join up with, I think they're like an army or a bunch of warriors, and they have to find out what happened to their brother. And it just didn't really entice me all that much. I wasn't very engaged with it. I was just kind of speeding through it, and I gave it, I think, 3 stars, 3.5 stars at the time, but to be honest now I can't really remember much about it. So I've decided not to carry on with the series because I'm not invested at all. I've also decided to DNF Rat Queens, which is a graphic novel series, and it's a fantasy series. The first graphic novel, I just didn't like any of the characters. It was just boring, and I felt like it was overwritten with the dialogue. I couldn't really tell you what the plot is about, so I didn't care for that one. I've decided not to carry on with it. And then the third series that I have DNF'd is Firelight by Sophie Jordan. This is the first book in a YA paranormal fantasy sort of series. The main character in this is basically a dragon. She can turn into a human form or a dragon form, and she is forced to leave her pride of fellow dragons and go and live in a small town in the desert, where she comes across a group of dragon hunters, one of which is a teenage boy. Obviously, being really early YA, they really like each other. It's kind of a Romeo and Juliet situation going on. I gave this one 3 stars. It was okay. I think I gave it 3, maybe 2.5. I would have definitely carried on with it when I was younger, but now I just don't have the time to invest in it, and I don't really want to buy it. It's not available in any of my libraries, so there's just no point. And then I want to talk about the 2 series that I have in progress that I'm not too fussed about. We have Fence, which is literally about a group of fencers. I think I've only read the first book. Yeah, I only read the first book in this series, and it's about I think he's a teenage boy, maybe university student, but I think teenager, who wants to become a really good fencer and competes, and he joins a school which has a really active fencing club, and his rival also goes to this school. So it's kind of like a hate to love romance sort of thing. And it was enjoyable. I think I gave it 3.5 stars, but I didn't really feel the need to carry on with it immediately. So it might be one that I carry on with next year when I'm trying to read 28 books in 28 days. It's just not something that I really want to do right now because I don't really feel like it's worth my time. And then the second series that I have in progress but I'm not racing to catch up with is Earth Divers. This is a comic book series by Stephen Graham Jones, and in this one it's set in the far future, I think like 150 years from now or something, and the Earth is basically an apocalyptic wasteland, and the main characters come across a time travel cave, and one of them goes back in time to kill Columbus because they figure if they stop Columbus from discovering the Americas, then America, the USA, wouldn't have formed and wouldn't have caused so many problems, and they think that's going to save the earth and improve things. I'm 2 volumes into this, or 2 comics into this, and what I'm going to do is wait until they come out in one big volume so I can sort of speed through them, because at the moment I'm sort of only half enjoying them. I'm giving them like 3.5 stars because they're good, but they're not long enough for me, and I think having them all compacted together in the future will really help because then I can speed through them. And then I have 5 series that I am completely up to date with, which are also series that I started this year. So we have Sheets, which I read volumes 1 and 2 of. This is about, I guess it's sort of like young YA, I would say, about a main character whose name I think is Marjorie, and her mother died about a year ago, and Marjorie has really been looking after her family, her brother and her dad, because her dad has fallen into a deep depression, and she's kind of running the laundromat that is owned by her family. And there's this really annoying guy, neighbour sort of person in the town who wants to buy it off of her, but not for any money, just to take it off her hands, to like relieve her of it. And she's trying to sort of fight him off while also trying to raise her brother. And then we also have a ghost character who has travelled over from the ghostly realm to the human realm, and he finds that he fits right in this laundromat because he is a sheet. It's really enjoyable. I really like this series. The second one is a lot darker than the first, I found. I mean, it's quite dark overall. It deals with some really deep topics: depression, death of a parent, potentially suicide. So I would go into this cautiously, but I would highly recommend it. It's really good, and I can't wait to see what the author, or how the author, wraps up this series, which I believe is happening later on this year. And then I started and completed Lore Olympus as well, or at least got up to date with it. I read the first 3 volumes, and I'm debating whether to carry on reading them as a webcomic. I don't know if that will be as good. Let me know in the comments below if you're reading it as a webcomic or in physical format. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling. I really don't care for the Hades and Persephone romance. I find it very cringy, particularly because everyone keeps talking about how Persephone is really young, and she does act young as well. She's got a very like young mentality and is like all innocent and stuff, and then Hades is obviously super old. So I don't love that, but I really like the way this story is told. I love the way that it's drawn, so I am really enjoying the series nonetheless. I'm kind of viewing it as like a soap opera sort of thing. The first volume is a little bit iffy. I don't think it really works well in print format because of the way that it's drawn on such dark backgrounds, but I guess the author realised that it didn't print well, and then in newer volumes it's a lot brighter and easier to read. I also started the Amina Al-Sarafi series. There's only 1 book out so far, so it wasn't hard for me to catch up. I loved this first book. I gave it 5 stars. I've done a whole review of it on my channel, so I won't talk about it too much, but basically it's about a retired pirate called Mina who is called back to do one final job, and she has to get her crew back together. There's also the Sad Ghost Club, which is also a really sad graphic novel series. I read the first 2 volumes in this, and I think the 3rd one's coming out soon. I don't really have loads to say about this one. It's drawn in black and white, so the art style isn't as enticing to me as I was hoping it would be, but I really like the story of these sad ghosts coming together and experiencing similar issues and talking it through. And then recently, which I wasn't originally going to include in this video, but since I'm recording it now, I might as well, I caught up with the Plated Prisoner series, which I am not really enjoying. I've been flicking through it basically since the 3rd book, I think. In the first 2 books nothing really happened. In the 3rd book some stuff happened, but it was mainly about the romance, and then in the 4th book the main character did absolutely nothing at all before she got... No, I'm not going to spoil it. Before something happened to her. I don't think this book is, or this series is well written. It follows the main character called Oren, who basically is pointless. Like, she doesn't do anything. And then there are multiple points of view, and most of those points of view don't really do anything either. So yeah, I don't know why I'm still reading it, but I am. And then there are 3 series that I started before 2023 that I continued with. 2 of those I've caught up with. I told you this video would be messy. These sections don't really make sense. So I read the 10th volume of Saga finally, which is really exciting because I've been waiting for this book to come out for ages. I enjoyed it, but not as much as previous installments because of what happened in volume 9. I feel like it's missing something now, so we'll see how it goes in the future. I don't know how many volumes of this are planned. If you know, let me know in the comments down below. I've been reading these subreddit and they have said all sorts of different things, so I couldn't really find a clear answer for what the authors have planned. But this is a sci-fi fantasy series about 2 warring factions and 2 main characters, one from each, who get together and have a baby, and that's illegal, it's frowned upon, it's never happened before, and they're sort of on the run with their child because they shouldn't be together. I really enjoy it. I think it's really, really good. It's a shame that the authors took such a long break in between 9 and 10 because I feel like that put a lot of people off, but now that I think the ball is rolling again, people are going to start catching up and getting back into it, so that's exciting. I also read Astrid Parker. I don't know what this series is called, something Falls I imagine, wherever the books are set. So I read books 1 and 2, and then book 3 comes out this summer or winter. It comes out at some point this year. I really enjoyed Astrid Parker a lot, and Astrid Parker is the 2nd book and it followed a lot of the same beats as the first, so I didn't love it as much, but it is definitely something that I'm going to carry on reading, and I'm going to finish off the trilogy at some point because I'm enjoying it. It's fun, it's contemporary romance. I really like the relationships between all of the characters. There are some good platonic friendships there as well, which I always really enjoy. So yeah, I'm enjoying this one quite a bit. It's not an all-time favourite series or anything, but I am very much enjoying it, so I'll carry on. And then I'm also continuing with the Monstrous series. I read volume 2 this quarter, and like I said in my wrap up, it is making a lot more sense now, which is good, because the first one just I didn't really understand what was going on, but this one spends a bit more time getting used to the world building and the background of the main character and her mother, which is very important to the world building as a whole. So I did enjoy this one a lot more than the first one. I don't know when I'm going to carry on with this series. Maybe in a couple of months time I'll get the next 2 volumes. Not sure how many are out at the moment, maybe like 7 or 8, but this isn't one that I want to really rush to read, to be honest, but I'm getting there very slowly. And then finally, for this book series that I have read, before we talk about my series TBR, there are 4 series that I have finished in this quarter, or also going into April. First of all, I finished the Cassidy Blake trilogy by B.E. Schwab. I read Bridge of Souls as an audiobook and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy these audiobooks because they're fun, middle grade, well narrated, about ghosts and ghostly cities around the world. Second series I finished was the Red Queen series. I read Warstorm finally after years and years, and I kind of wish I hadn't because it was awful. It dragged on for ages and I didn't enjoy it. I really enjoyed Red Queen and the other 2 books in the series as well, so I was really looking forward to this one. So it's such a shame that I didn't enjoy the last book, but there was absolutely no need for it to be like 700-800 pages long because nothing happened, and by that point I just didn't care about any of the characters. So yeah, I didn't enjoy that one. I also finished off the Prison Healer trilogy, I think that's what it's called. I read The Blood Traitor, which is the 3rd book obviously, and I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 4 stars. It would maybe be 3.5 on reflection because there was a lot of walking, and what I really don't like in final books in a series is when the characters suddenly discover something and have to go on a quest to find it, because that should have been done in the previous books, and the final book in a series should be wrapping things up and have like all of these things coming together and fighting it out, but that's not really what happened in this one. Like, things were coming together, but there were more reveals than I think were necessary. And like with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and The Burning God, there was just so much walking from place to place or traveling from place to place, and I don't like that in books. I don't know why, it's just something I really cannot get into. But overall, it's a really good trilogy. I'm really glad that I finished it off because it's a really strong YA fantasy series, and I would highly recommend it if you're into YA fantasy. And then finally, the last book book series that I finished this quarter is Giant Days. I marathoned basically the entire thing, but I read the first half of the series in February as part of my 28 books in 28 days challenge, and then I finished it off at the beginning of April, so I'm counting them in quarter 1 because it was just so close. I really love this series. I'm probably going to buy them all for myself because I've been getting them from the library, but it's a really, really good heartfelt series. I love all of the characters. I'm so connected to every single one and all of their backgrounds and all of the side characters and all of their drama. I did have a bit of a weird ship towards the end that I was like questioning within myself, but that didn't actually end up happening, so I'm wondering if there's going to be a spin-off series where we see all the characters in the future. It's very humorous and relatable. I didn't go to uni myself, but some of the stuff that they were saying, I was like, yep, that's 100% what happens in the UK, probably in Sheffield. So I'm really pleased with this series. I definitely want to reread it in the future, so I'm going to start buying the volumes, I think, and it won't add to my TBR because I've already read them. So now, talking about the series that I definitely want to finish in the next quarter, and I need to be serious and like realistic about this because I don't want to give myself a massive TBR and then completely fail over the next few months, so I need to set myself some goals. I did upload a series TBR video at the start of the year, and I think I listed like 13 book series that I want to read soon, or that I want to complete this year, and I've only read 1 of those so far, even though I have finished 4 series. So I don't know if I'm going to hold myself to reading those specific 13 series, or if 13 series in general would be okay. So I'm just looking at my TBR shelf and figuring out what I want to do over the next 3 months. Okay, so I've just picked up about 1 million books, so that may have been a mistake, but these are the book series that I think I'm interested in reading over the next 3 months and potentially catching up with, or finishing, or just starting, just to give you an idea of what's coming up. So first I have 2 series to start. Wow, it's gone very bright. First of all, I have 2 series that I want to start in order to recap the books because the sequels are coming out soon. So the first one is The Blood Trials. I have no idea what this one's about. I think it's an adult book, but it's been kind of marketed as sort of in between adult and YA. If only there was a term for that. I'm so sorry about this brightness. I don't know what's going on. I've heard mixed things about this one, but a few people who do have similar tastes to me have really enjoyed it, so I do think that I will end up really enjoying it. I couldn't really tell you what it's about though. I think it's like sci-fi fantasy, maybe. It says here that blood magic is banned, main character survived it until now, military force, Republic's enemies, gladiatorial war games. This sounds great. So I'm really excited to read that one. The other one that I need to read and recap for my series recapping website Recaptains is Little Thieves. I've had this out from the library for the longest time, so I need to finally get to it. I have no idea what this one's about at all. I honestly could not tell you a thing. It says here that the main character is the adopted goddaughter of death and fortune. I don't know what that means. It's a retelling of The Goose Girl, and I'm not honestly familiar with that, so I've got no idea. But this is a very popular book at the moment, I think, and the sequel is coming out very, very soon if it's not out already. So I do need to read this one soon. And now that I'm talking about it, I do want to read it. This always happens when I come up with TBR videos. I also have 2 books in a series that I want to start. The first one is a book that I've already started, and that is The Daughters of Isdahar, and I really enjoyed the first 2 chapters that I read. So I'm so excited to carry on with this. I'm going to hopefully do that very, very soon in the next couple of weeks. This is going to be a duology. It's a fantasy series with Egyptian inspired mythology, I think, or the world itself is Egyptian inspired, and the main character has like earth bending or water bending powers. Like they've got like Avatar style elemental powers in here, which is really exciting. I think one of the main characters, from what I can tell so far, is about to be married off, and she doesn't want to be, but her parents are like, you have to be, I'm sorry. And the other one works in a bookshop, so that's really exciting. I also really want to start Semiosis, and this was, I think, on my April TBR. I should probably double check that because I need to know these things. This is a story about humans escaping Earth because it's a nightmare here, and I think the plants on the planet that they run to are actually sentient and they start attacking. So I'm really excited to read this one. My friend Angela has loved it, my co-worker hated it, so I'm excited to see where I will fall. So that's it for series that I'm starting, and then I've got some series that I want to carry on with. We've got Heart of Flames, which is the second book in the Crown of Feathers series. I gave the first book 5 stars, so it's honestly an atrocity that I haven't carried on with it. This is a book series about 2 sisters, who one of which wants to be a phoenix rider because there are phoenixes in this world and like wars are fought over them and stuff. It's a really, really good fantasy series so far, and I'm looking forward to reading this one. I don't think I'll catch up with the entire series this quarter, but I at least want to read this second book. And then I've got Ocean's Echo, which is a companion book to Winter's Orbit, so not necessarily a series, but I count companion series books as series. This is a space opera book like the first one, and it's about 2 guys, one of which is a rich socialite and the other is in the military, and they have to be thrown together for reasons, and the higher ups want them to form a bond that can't be disconnected, like a mental sciencey bond, and they want to rebel against that because it's against their wishes and it's really not fair. I'm 77 pages into this, and I am honestly still waiting for it to get really good. I loved Winter's Orbit, but this is just not as good so far. Yeah, I've been putting it off, but I do want to finish it off soon, definitely in this quarter, so that I can tick this off of my series list. And then another book series that I need to recap for recaptains, or another book, is Fevered Star. This is the second book in the Black Sun series, but I don't know what the actual name is called, probably like Broken no, it's not Broken Earth, that's something entirely different. Between the Earth and Sky? Yes, it says it right on the cover. Yeah, this is the second book in that fantasy series. I really enjoyed the first one, but I haven't heard great things about this, so I've been putting it off closer to the time that the third book is coming out so that I can sort of read them a bit closer together. I need to get onto this soon so that I can recap it and return it to the library because I've had it out for ages. And then I've got some series that I want to finish very, very soon. The first one being the Drowning Empire? Yeah, Drowning Empire series. This is the second book, The Bone Shard Emperor, which is the one that I'm on, and then I also have The Bone Shard War from NetGalley, and I haven't read this one yet, so I need to get a move on and start it. I didn't love the first book. I think I gave it 3.5 stars, so it's sort of like average, but I do think the rest of the series is going to be really good. At least I hope so. So I'm looking forward to giving this one a go. I'm currently rereading the Poison Study series. This is the third book, and I'm hoping to marathon the entire series this month, or at least in the next 2 months. So this is why this one's on my quarterly TBR. This is a series about Yelena, who is a poison tester for the commander. She was actually saved from execution in order to become a poison taster, and to be honest, she didn't really have much choice. Like, she was either going to die that way or potentially live as a poison taster or a food taster, poison tester. I really enjoyed the series when I was younger. I'm looking forward to rereading it and then reading the rest of Maria V. Snyder's books. I've already read this trilogy. I've read the Touch of Power trilogy, maybe the first 2 books in that, and I've read the Inside Out duology. But I'm looking forward to reading the rest of her backlist and seeing what she comes out with, because she's a very prolific author. She was releasing a lot of books early on in my Booktube career, and then I just stopped hearing so much about her. So I don't really know if many people now, new booktubers and book bloggers, are familiar with her, but I'm looking forward to carrying on with this series and making it my little project for the next couple of months. I also really want to read Redemptor, which I found recently in a charity shop. This is the second book in the Raybearer duology. I haven't heard great things about this one. The first book was really well received and I really enjoyed it, but no one's really talking about this. I don't know if many people finish off the duology or if they just hated the second book so much that they didn't want to talk about it, but I figure I might as well read it, give it a go, because then that'll be another duology off of my series TBR, which is really exciting. And then finally, the last series that I definitely want to finish in this quarter is Tempest by Julie Cross. This is the third book, Time Storm. This is about time travel, basically. In the first book, the main character, his girlfriend is killed by some agents and he accidentally travels back in time because he's got sort of time traveling powers and he wants to try and stop it, and he's sort of working his way to stop things, but then realizes he might be actually messing things up because of time loops and stuff. I've read the first 2 books already, but I do want to reread the second book before I read this. That's the third one that I've never read before, just so I get a good sort of feel for what's going on. I might read this in April, but it wasn't on my April TBR, so I don't know, it depends what I've got time for, really. We'll see. Overall though, I think I've got a fantastic list of series here. I'm feeling very, very motivated to read them, so while I might switch some series out depending on where the mood takes me, I think most of these are pretty set because I am very excited to read all of them, or I've got commitments to read them due to read captions, so I'm looking forward to reading those. That's my overall series wrap up for the quarter. Let me know how you're doing with your series below, what your series goals are for the year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all in the next video. Bye!